The title of this article is I Thought It Was a Joke. North Carolina woman loses $850,000 home after missed $400 payment to HOA, which leads to foreclosure. The author is Christian Boone. It was published on March 2025, and the publishing company is Atlanta Black Star. This article will be in the description box in case you would like to read it uninterrupted, as I will have commentary throughout the article. Let's do it. A fight over one missed $400 payment cost a North Carolina woman her home, which was later flipped for nearly $900,000. All right. You know, I live in Florida. There are HOAs everywhere in Florida. It's very hard to get to find property outside an HOA. It is possible, okay, but it is difficult. So this woman owed $400 to her HOA, did not pay it. The HOA forecloses on the home, which is allowed in most HOAs, okay? And I guess somebody else bought it and they flipped it for almost $900,000. Taylor Sanders saw none of that profit. Taylor Sanders must be the owner. She now views herself as a cautionary tale. The lesson: don't underestimate the power of your neighborhood HOA. I have to be honest, I already knew that lesson, and it didn't take me going into a $900,000 home foreclosure to learn that. So just, observation, but that is the lesson she's teaching. Don't underestimate your HOA, okay? This is just the beginning, she told Action 9 News in Charlotte. I think that's North Carolina. I want to make sure I educate other people. I want to make sure they know about it. I want them to know their rights. Charlotte may be in South Carolina. I get my Carolinas confused. Forgive me. Okay, this is her. Taylor's Sanders story goes back 5 years when she was last informed she owed $400 in unpaid dues to the HOA. I guess it's called Weddington Hills. So she owes $400. Doesn't seem like a whole lot, to be totally honest, for unpaid dues, $400. Now, I understand money's all relative, okay? We've had two assessments. They've totaled about probably $3,500 in the 5 years I've lived here, so I'm not really complaining. But yeah, those HOAs, you have to take them seriously. The HOA sent her multiple letters, but Sanders told Action News she never received them. She acknowledges the $400 debt. Stop. Okay, this is Sanders. Okay. So she's saying, I acknowledge, I understand, okay, that there is a $400 HOA fee. She acknowledges it. But she said that because she didn't get a letter in the mail, she didn't get letters in the mail or whatever, stating that she owed it, I guess she thought that she could just ignore it. See, it says here, she never received the letters. She acknowledges $400 debt. It's kind of like this. The electric company may forget to send you a bill. Maybe it gets lost in the mail. Maybe you didn't get the email. However, guess what? Regardless whether you got a bill, you still owe it. And here's the other thing. You know you owe it. Yes. Oh, but we didn't get the bill, so it must not be owed. No, it doesn't work that way. It's just like when you go to the store and there isn't a price tag on something, it doesn't mean the item is free. Okay, so just because you didn't get the bill doesn't mean that the bill does not exist. So, and the fact that she acknowledges the debt, that tells me she's fully aware of it. I don't know. This is 5 years ago. I mean, dang, 400, that's not that bad, folks. When you're talking in terms of real estate. Yes, $400 for an unexpected emergency can be a real pinch, okay? But when we're talking your residence, on the backdrop of this is your residence, $400, pay it. All right, moving on here. It says here, the HOA sent her multiple letters, but she never received them. She acknowledges $400 debt. I just repeated that. The board moved ahead with punitive action, acquiring a lien on her property in February 2021. I remember this was just published in March this year. 2 months later, she received a letter saying she owes $1,200. Yes, probably late fees and stuff, and was told foreclosure proceedings would soon commence. Makes sense. You owe $400. You didn't pay it. Now you owe $1,200. I thought it was a joke, Sanders told the station. Why would she think it was a joke? You know you owe $400. You know, when you don't pay your HOA fees, it increases with late fees and penalties. Didn't say we like it. Okay. Didn't say we like it. So you know that. So, and you acknowledge the 400. So what's the, I thought it was a joke. What part of the joke did you think it was? You can't tell me truly. I mean, I understand that some people are a bit naive about how HOAs work, but come on, she's an older woman. Okay. She's not a 20 or even a 30 something. All right. She looks to be my age. Scrolling down. It wasn't a joke. And Sanders would lose her 3,300 square foot home. That's a nice size house. It was sold, according to county records, for a paltry $49,000. So somebody scored a deal on that foreclosure. 3,300 square foot home for $49,000. But the indignity didn't stop there. In case you don't notice, I do this stuff kind of casually. All right. 5 months later, the new owner flipped Sanders' home for 850 grand. Wow. Okay, so the new owner flips it. So they probably made improvements. Oh my God, it's devastating for my children. She said, I don't wish this on anyone. Well, if it was so devastating for your children, why didn't you pay the $400 fee? Oh, geez. You know what, guys? Sometimes we put ourselves in the most ridiculous situations, and then we go look for someone else to go blame. You got kids. Why would you allow a $400 bill to get in the way of your kid's roof over their head? You acknowledge the bill. You tell me that you don't understand late fees and stuff, kind of like renting 101. Okay, so they flip it. It says here, so she doesn't wish this on anyone. The wedding, let's just say the HOA. The HOA has declined comment, but their actions were entirely legal, leaving Sanders with no recourse. Yes, their actions are legal. Not saying it's fair, not saying it's right. Trust me. Okay. Currently, it is North Carolina. Okay, currently under North Carolina law, HOAs have the authority to place a lien on a property if the homeowner doesn't pay fees and dues. Yeah, and that, by the way, is not Carolina. That's probably most HOAs. Check with your own individual HOA, okay? If the dues remain unpaid, the HOA can initiate foreclosure proceedings. This is actually kind of HOA 101. An HOA can foreclose if fines are unpaid, but usually the goal is to resolve the issue. Lady Sanders is what I think her name is. You had 5 years. Okay, this was just written in March. March this year. Yeah, $400. You couldn't give them $50 a month and call it a day. Homeowners can appeal, but otherwise their options are limited. What are you going to appeal? If it's written as the law is, you don't have an appeal to make. And it talks about North Carolinians are considering a bill that give homeowners increased rights. Blah, blah, and blah, blah. Okay, let's go back to this lady here. Close your eyes. I'm scrolling. Okay, let's go back to this lady here. All right. I don't feel sorry for her. And I'm going to tell you why. This was solvable. See, the people that my heart goes out to are people who are in situations that are near impossible to solve, where you look at and you go, this is unjust. Okay. It involves, and really, to some extent, it really doesn't even involve how much money there is. It really almost doesn't. But I think part of me, for the really to get the heartstrings, it's really got to be like, man, nobody could possibly pay that. It's not fair because HOAs, they've screwed over a whole lot of people. Okay. I'm fully aware that I live in one, and I make sure my music volume is turned down. I make sure that, I follow the rules, and I check in with my HOA. We have like another company that runs the money and stuff, which I think is the smartest way to do it. There's a third party that runs it. Okay. Our HOA board does not get the money. It's all to run through a third party. And I can pull up everything that I've ever paid on the computer. That's the way it's supposed to be. She's sitting here trying to play the fiddle of, oh my goodness, this is so unfair. I was living in an $850,000 home and they took it from me. May I please the court? Okay. She wasn't living in an $850,000 home. Her home was not worth $850,000 when she lived in it because she didn't have the money. And how do we know? Because she allowed $400 to come between her 4 kids and the roof over their head. See, it's easy to look at something and go, oh man, she was living in this home was worth $850,000. No, it wasn't. If I took my apartment, okay, I do call it an apartment, even though it's a condo. Okay? I call it an apartment. All right. It's just condo is just a fancy word for apartment. Let's get real. Okay. So if I were to take my place and I would sell it just as it is, I'd probably get around, I think, don't follow Zillow, anyone, okay? But according to Zillow, if I drop it down a little, probably around 160, maybe 75. It's a 2 bedroom, 840 square feet, okay? That's what I might get for it. But let's say somebody else buys it, okay? Let's say, just honestly, let's say they buy it from me and they just boom, they just like totally fix it up. I mean, they outline the windows. They do things that I could only dream of to do, and I put 15,000 into it, sealing the floor because I wanted to get rid of the popcorn ceiling. All right. Um, and I want new floors and paint, all that stuff. But let's say somebody else came in and they dropped another $15,000, and then they turned around and they sold my condo for 300,000. Can I rightfully say, "Oh my God, they just took my condo and they sold it for 300,000. I could have had 300,000 on it." No, I couldn't have, because I didn't have the money to fix it up to make it a $300,000 condo. See, here's the problem I see here, family. We've got a story here where there is actually no story. Think about it. She lost her house because of her own actions voluntarily. And like I said earlier, sitting and denying, playing the, oh my goodness, well, I never got a bill. Don't matter. You knew the $400 existed. You can walk yourself right to the HOA and pay it. Now, we can all debate, argue, and say, but maybe that wasn't a valid fee. Hey, look, when you're talking the roof over your head, you got 4 kids, you pay the fee, you can negotiate it all later. In other words, don't give the HOA that little claw that they need to hang you up and to hang you out to dry with. Okay, don't give them that. She didn't just give them the claw; she gave them her entire house. But really, to some extent, in my opinion, it's like if they're looking to, for me to heart bleed over this, I'm not. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at it kind of going, that kind of stupid. It was a stupid reason to lose your place. It really was. And while it's true that, foreclosure is going to clearly drop the house value of what it was. Okay, so maybe that $3,300 home could have sold for, I don't know, 300,000. We'll even go 400,000. We'll take half of it. The bottom line is, she didn't lose an $850,000 piece of property, as I believe the story would like us to somewhat believe. That's not what she lost. And if it's because of money, I'm willing to bet that 3,300 with 4 kids, and I don't know if there's a husband, but I'll leave it at that. Okay. I don't think she had the money to maintain the house very well. And I think, if it pleases the court, the evidence shows that, because she let $400 come between her kids and the roof over their head. Sometimes I think we read stories and they really want us to just, tug at our heartstrings. And really, all I do is, if I don't get mad over it, I just sit and I go, "Are you kind of stupid?" There is no story here. The most that I can see for story, if I absolutely had to, yes, I agree with her in the sense of she wants to teach people about HOAs and the power that they have. But here's the problem I have. This is kind of HOA 101. Rack up HOA dues. They can put a lien on your house, and the dues that you have paid into the HOA can be used to kick you out of your house. So the moral of the story is, try not to rack up HOA dues. And I would almost stretch to say that really, she probably had no business being in this house. This house was too much house for her. She should have been downsized. And how do we know? Again, if I can address you to the title article, $400 HOA fee. There is no story here. Just kind of a somewhat foolish woman that didn't pay her $400 and decided that she was going to deny it. She never had an $850,000 house, ever. And looking at how she handled this situation with the $400 HOA fee, I think the house she was in, she was probably lucky to live in it as long as she did. Honestly, I don't think she lost anything. In reality, I think she probably lived more lavishly than she could afford to begin with.